right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. That was all right, but I think we can do a little better than that. Let's try that one more time. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. All right. That's what I'm talking about. We'd like to welcome you here to the Dirty Dog Jazz Cafe. Any birthdays in the house tonight? Uh-oh, I heard, what's the name? What's the name? Jeff? You should say Jeff, right? Everybody say happy birthday to Jeff. Anybody else besides Jeff tonight? I seen a hand go up in the front somewhere. Is that a hand up in the front? What's the name on there, Brian? Table 2. Blade? Yep. Everybody say happy birthday to Blade. 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 All right. Any anniversaries in the house tonight? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will, be all so kind. Is to give it up for the young lady on piano tonight. Put your hands together for Miss Pam Wise, y'all. I did not believe that. She did not believe that. Nobody believed that. I said Pam Wise, y'all. What's up with that? Jesus. Jeez. Supplying that heartbeat on bass tonight. Put your hands together for one more time for Mr. Damon Womack. Yeah, that's a lot better. That's a lot better. Up front on saxophone. Put your hands together for Mr. Houston Patton, y'all. How come I can only hear one side of the room clapping? That don't make no sense to me. Slapping them skins in the back on the drums. Put your hands together one more time for Mr. Khalid Robinson, y'all. Hold the band together on percussions. My brother, he's did a phenomenal job all this week. Put your hands together one more time for Mr. Kevin Bujo Jones, yo. Folks, we here at the Dirty Dog Jazz Cafe. We ask just out of respect for the guests that are here to hear the music, if you just can keep your conversations just down to a minimum while the band is playing. They're going to give you one solid hour of music. You guys can help us shut it down for the night. Is that okay to everybody? Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, put your hands together for my main man, Mr. Kevin Bujo Jones.
Thank y'all very, very, very much. How y'all doing out there tonight? Wait a minute, Dennis, wait a minute. Where we at? We're at the Dirty Dog, y'all. How y'all doing tonight? Okay, it's more like it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out to the Dirty Dog.
Man, that was
Okay, come on, y'all. I know it's the last show, the last set, but when I say the Dirty Dog, y'all got to say Jazz Cafe, all right? Thank you for coming out to the Dirty Dog. Jazz Cafe. Thank you so very, very much. Now, that's what I'm talking about. We all here. So once again, Miss Pamela Wise on the piano. Mr. Houston Patton on the saxophone. Mr. Damon Warmack on the bass. The incomparable Mr. Caleb, that's C-A-L-E-B, Robinson. Caleb Robinson on the drums. My name is Kevin Bujo Jones, and this is our group that we call 10th World. Thank you all so much. Okay, so, you know, we're live streaming tonight. They're live streaming our performance. So whoever's watching out there, thank you all for tuning in. The first song that you heard was a song written by myself called Bodhisattva Wonderful Sound. And that song is really entitled for, it's about making peace and helping others through sound, through our music. Okay, so that's what that song was about. The last song you just heard was called Up for the Count, and it was composed and written by Mr. Onaje Allen Gums, a very good friend of mine who passed away during COVID. And I miss him dearly. And, you know, some of these songs that I pick out have a lot to do with the people that I knew and I've known for many, many years, and they're all significant. So I remember him well. So we're going to move on. We're going to do a song by one of the piano players that helped me form this group called 10th World, a native Detroiter by the name of Kelvin Scholar, and this is called New Nation. Damon Warmack on the bass. Houston Patton on the saxophone. Pamela Wise on the piano.
Yeah.
Of course, Kayla Robinson on the drums. That was called New Nation. Quite appropriate for these days and times. Anyway, I'm not going. I ain't gonna get into it. We ain't getting into that. But anyway, thank you to Kelvin Scholar for that one. Wonderful sound. That's right. It's a wonderful sound. I can't talk too long, but I feel like this next song needs a clear introduction. Our original saxophone player in this band, his name was Dr. Jonathan Brian Horton, or for us, he was just either Horton or Brian. And he probably needs a ride someplace. Anyway, Brian Horton, saxophonist. He was director of jazz studies at North Carolina Central University. And he was one of my best friends, very, very close. We went on the road together. We played with everybody together. We did many, many gigs with Bernard Harper, with this band. We went all over the place. Unfortunately, Brian Horton passed away 3 years ago, unexpectedly. And I promised myself that I would continue playing his music whenever possible. So he wrote this song that we recorded some time ago, and we released it on a new CD, or a latest CD, entitled "In This Moment," after the song he wrote. So.
What is today?
Huh?
Today.
What is today? Oh yeah, that's right. Thank you. And by the way, today is his birthday. So, to honor our brother Brian Horton, we will play "In This Moment." Thanks so much. Thank you all so very, very much. You know, we got to. They only gave us an hour to play. So, you know, we got to, like, we can't really, we're trying to dig in here, you know what I'm saying? So, the bewitching hour is beyond. I can't even think anymore. I got so much music. Upon us, the bewitching hour is upon us, which is 10 o'clock. So, we're going to play a song. It's going to feature the percussion section.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, James Brown, you said, get the drummer some. Let him get some. Ow. And I hope you enjoy. Now, you're probably wondering why I have these up here, because nobody listens to these anymore, do they? Y'all don't do CDs. Where you get your music from? Spotify? You know how much Spotify pays us? Like 0.008 cents to every dollar sold. Yeah, that's why I'm selling these, cause Spotify ain't getting my money, okay? You know. But anyway, y'all can. Boo. Oh, boo! Oh yeah, Spotify. Boo.
I don't know. This is being streamed. We probably shouldn't say it.
Huh?
This is being streamed.
Oh.
We shouldn't say that.
Well, I'll say what I want to say. Everybody else is saying what they want to say, so why can't I say what I want to say? You know, am I gonna be canceled? I don't care what they say. As a matter of fact, y'all gotta pay me my money. How about that? Pay me my money. As Richard Pryor said, I left my money in the. Anyway, we're gonna play one more song for y'all. This is a song written by Victor Feldman and made famous by Miles Davis, and I'll let y'all figure out what it is. I'm getting hoarse, man.
Like Disco Inferno.
Huh?
You got an
Disco Inferno.
whatever you want. Yeah, for real.
Thank you all very, very, very much. Give a big round of applause for Pamela Wise. Another big round of applause. Houston Patton on the saxophone. My brother, my friend, Mr. Damon Warmack on the bass. My main man, he calls me Unc. I call him nephew. I call him for all the gigs I can get him on. Mr. Caleb Robinson on the drums. I'd like to thank everyone here, the staff at the Dirty Dog, especially my man Carl behind the bar. Give him a round of applause. Katie and the rest of the wait staff. And definitely a big round of applause back there for those hardworking cooks and our chef back there in the back there. They've been on duty a lot longer than we've been playing here. So thank you all for being so gracious. Thank you for coming out. Nah, man, I can play some more, man. You know, you
You can play one more.
Nah, we ain't gonna play no more. We ain't playing. I work. They done played 5 shows already. They ain't been paid yet. Jack. You want to do a quick one?
I just put my snare up.
Never mind. He done packed up already. Sorry, y'all. We will be back soon, right, Carl?
I gotta get these kids.
Yeah, and Damon got to go pick up his kids. I got court in the morning. No, I'm kidding. Now, thank y'all very, very much for coming out. We appreciate you. If you want a CD, I have 2 left to my name. These are the last 2. If you haven't bought one, please come and get one. They're $20. You see me right after. Thank y'all so very, very much. I don't have the bandwidth. Thank y'all. Thanks, Kevin. This man right here, his name is Kevin Jones.
Wow. No relation.